Alrighty, so I just ended the last chapter, so this is not much of a review, but the last chapter we read was titled No More Cabbage Stew, and the girls got to eat some pancakes. It's New Year's Eve. Well, by the end it was New Year's Day. It struck midnight. And we kind of talked about they're out of flour, they're not eating a lot of food, they're eating boring food. It's also really cold, but now they have the new stove, so there's a lot going on. Obviously, the girls are talking about hopefully the war ending a lot, and that's kind of honestly what's in my brain. I'm hoping that as we near the end of the book, it will also align with the end of the war and there ends up being a happy ending, but that's just kind of wishful thinking at this point because, I mean, as we've read this book, there has been a plot twist like every other chapter. And as soon as we think, once they made it with Big My and Skinny Rhinus, I was like, okay, they're going to stay here the rest of the time. And then something else happened. So it's kind of risky to think that you know what's going to happen or to get your hopes up. But I'm curious what Snowdrops is going to be about. So might as well get to reading. Okay. I've brought you some springtime, says Mr. Me, and he sets a small vase on the table. How brave these little flowers are. The whole garden lies buried under the snow, yet these tiny little snowdrops already dare to bloom. He blows on his hands, which are purple from the cold. Come, children, look at this marvel, he exclaims, and holds his hands above the stove. Children, please take a look. It's summertime now, says Eva. Lisa's holding Freaky too. We're on the beach in Scheveningen, says the puppet. It's burning hot. I'm practically suffocating. We're with Davy and Dorothy, Lisa continues. Eva's hiding under a big towel. She's afraid of the waves, for they're big and rough today. Dorothy wants Eva to get in the water. She lifts the towel up a little, but Eva will not move. Do you really want to hear the sea? asks Mr. Ami. He's still holding his hands above the stove. Your hands will never warm up above the stove that's not lit, Eva tells him. I'll go get the sea, he says. They hear him walking up the steps. He's moving very, very slowly. Did you know that the sea was upstairs? whispered Lisa. No, of course not. I believe that hunger is making him a bit crazy. I think I'm becoming a little bit crazier myself. Lisa draws her chair closer to her sister. Do you feel that way too? Does your stomach sometimes shout to you that you've got to eat or else you'll die? Eva nods. Papa and Mama are probably dead. Do you think so, Eva? Sometimes, because we don't hear from them at all. I don't think about them very much. I don't even remember what they look like anymore. Mr. Ami says that we can't hear from them because the trains aren't running and there's no mail service. It's probably true. Eva slides her chair closer to the table and bends over the snowdrops. They smell like the outdoors, she says. Do you hear Mr. Ami upstairs? He's looking for the sea. Here's the sea. Mr. Ami lays a large white shell on the table. Who wants to listen first? I do, Lisa replies. She picks up the shell and holds it to her ear. My goodness, I do hear the sea. I've forgotten that you can hear the sea in a seashell. Eva, Lisa, he says solemnly. I'm convinced that the war can't last much longer. That's what you said in September, when the Allies tried to take Arnhem, and now it's almost March, Eva grumbles. Sweetheart, I know more than you think. How? I'll tell you a big secret. Our neighbor, Mr. Vanderklein, has a radio. Every day he listens to Radio Orange, which is a broadcast from England. A little while ago, he even heard Queen Wilhelmina make a speech. Lisa picks up Freaky too. That can't be. You're fibbing, Mr. Ami, says the puppet. We haven't had any electricity for a long time now. England has locked its doors. The key lies buried near the shore. The key is... No. Freaky too, stop singing. You're annoying me. I'm not fibbing. Mr. Vanderklein has a crystal receiver. Don't ask me how that thing works, but he says he doesn't need electricity to operate it. In any case, he keeps me informed on everything that happens. Mr. Ami closes his eyes and grabs the back of a chair. He gives a cry and falls to the floor with a thud. Then he is silent. It's my fault, Lisa screams. I shouldn't have told him that he was fibbing. Be quiet. Eva kneels next to Mr. and me and taps him gently on the cheek. He groans. He doesn't have any blood, Lisa sobs. Look, he's so white. What time is it? He asked, opening his eyes. Shh, says Eva, trying to soothe him. Shh, you're here with us. Walk through the back garden. Fetch Mr. Vanderkline. I'm sick. He closes his eyes again. You go, Lisa. I'll stay here. Eva whispers, do you remember the way? Yes, across the playground, along the sandbox. I'll be at the back of number 10, where we spend our vacation. Eva gives her a little push. Be careful. Now go. Lisa walks out the door. Eva returns to Mr. and me. She tries to lift him, but he won't budge. Eva tries not to cry, but she can't help it. Mr. and me is going to die, and Lisa will never be coming back. She should have gone to Mr. Vanderkline's house herself. Who would have ever let a small child like Lisa do something as difficult as that? The kitchen door opens. A man enters the room. Lisa follows him. I'm Mr. Vanderkline, he says to Eva, and extends his hand. I'm pleased to meet you. At last I've had the chance to see who lived in my house 6 years ago. He sits down on the floor next to Mr. and me. Wake up, he calls. Mr. and me opens his eyes. Where am I? He asks and looks at the ceiling as if he's never seen it before. You're in your own house, where you belong, Mr. Vanderkline replies, and we're going to put you in bed. Come, girls, let's lift him up. They carry Mr. and me to his bedroom and put him into bed, clothes and all. Can you watch him for a little while? I'll be right back, says Mr. Vanderkline, and he disappears. He's opening his eyes, Lisa whispers. She slips her hand under Mr. and me's hand. Are you cold? She asks gently. Yes, a little bit, but I'll stay awake now, he answers. Thank goodness, the girls exclaim. Together, they heave a sigh of relief. Mr. Vanderkline returns with a large flat pan. It must be cabbage soup or sugar beets, says Lisa. Open your mouth, old friend, Mr. Vanderkline says. Mr. and me presses his lips together. Come on, I have enough to share with you. Don't ask me how it's possible, but the parents of my students bring me food now and then. Eat up, old boy. Small bits of potato disappear into Mr. and me's mouth. Each time he opens his mouth for more, the girls open their mouths too. He's starving, Mr. Vanderkline whispers. If he doesn't eat, he won't make it. He's given all of his food to us, says Lisa. We've known that for a long time, but we couldn't do anything about it. Of course not, he looks at her affectionately. Children can't do anything about it. And the Bellflower cellar is empty, says Lisa. What are we going to do now? I'll make sure that the three of you all get something to eat, he says. Remember those parents? From now on, we'll share what we have, even if it isn't much. It won't be for very long. Listen to what I say. I think it'll be another 2 months at the most, and then we'll be free. And if Mr. and me doesn't eat, I won't eat either, says Lisa. What about you, Eva? Neither will I, she replies. If he gets enough to eat, he'll no longer have to lick our plates. So the rest is for you, Mr. Vanderkline says. Mr. Amici Infanti can be by himself for a while. They go downstairs, and Mr. Vanderkline sets the pan on the middle of the dining room table. Eat, children, he said. They don't even bother to get forks. With their hands, they grab pieces of cold potato. Here, a couple of turnips, he says. Eat a little, then stop. Don't have too much at once, otherwise you'll become very ill. In an hour, you can eat some more again. He picks up the pan and covers it with a tea towel. I'm leaving now. Goodbye. I'm Marie-Louise Dutour. And that's Marie-Jeanne Dutour, says Eva, pointing to her sister. But those weren't her names in 1939 when we stayed at your house. I know. But I have an idea. In a month or two, you'll be able to walk down the street and shout your real names as loudly as you want. Now, I really am going. Mr. Vanderkline sets the pan on the table again. I'll leave it here, he says. In an hour, you can give a couple of bites to your foster father. Take good care of him. I'll be back to check up soon. Give me a key to the back door. There must be a spare key around here somewhere. Remember what I said about those 2 months. See you later. He disappears through the kitchen door. He's crazy, says says Eva, and she points to her forehead. Mr. Vanderkline says that the war will end in 2 months. He must mean 2 centuries. The next chapter is titled Angelo.